myself.
Mm-hmm. All right. Good morning, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Happy May 3rd. It is Star Wars Day Eve, and it's sunny outside, and I'm excited about it. So we were just talking about coffee. We were talking about riding bikes. We're talking about all sorts of silly things. But today we're going to be talking about refreshing into spring. So it's starting to feel like spring here in Minnesota. I'm really excited. And I was playing around with Revu, messing around with some settings, and I found a couple things that I see that Michael already has on his screen that I don't really pay attention to.
Oh,
so it's like I kind of maybe we do need to do a refresher for all of us, because even though this is, when we talk about doing refreshers, it's more beginner friendly, but every time that we've seemed to do a task like this, we find something that even seasoned users will be like, oh, hey, I didn't know that. And that's always fun. What do you think about that?
I agree. And that is pretty much my day-to-day life in Revu, where I'm always finding some little nuggets that are new, something that I haven't seen before, that I'm going through and learning more about. Even in demos, sometimes I find something in there. I'm like, oh, I didn't know that, as I'm going through and showing some items. And today it's all about starting in Revu, right? So we went through a bunch of our surveys. There were some items on things and topics that folks were asking for. We're going to start back as we start in spring. What and how do we use Revu? And we'll let you start, Jason, because you said you had some nuggets. Or do you want me to start?
I mean, your screen had the same thing, but whatever. Where's my Zoom controls here? I'll do it if I can remember how my buttons work. See, I switched my coffee this morning. I went back to my AeroPress, and now my brain's like, wee,
all right. Over the place.
Right? It's fun, isn't it? All right. So what I was thinking about, I was messing around with some settings. I think there was a support case that came in, and I was looking for something, and I realized that I never really pay attention to the status bar. See, I can't even remember where you put it. Where is that thing? Is it under Toolbars? Yeah, status bar. I never used the status bar, but I was looking for something that controls like the polar snap, right? Because sometimes you can draw a line and you can hold down shift and it will go straight, kind of like AutoCAD does. And I was looking for a toggle if there was something like that. So I was here on the status bar because I don't use this, but I keep forgetting that, hey, look, if you pay attention, it will tell you what to do. Open a PDF to mark up. Okay. So whenever you do stuff, this little status bar is kind of treating it kind of like AutoCAD does. If you follow the command line, there's all sorts of information. So if you go to draw a line, it will tell you, select a start point and drag mouse to endpoint and release. Holding shift will snap. So there's all these little bonus tips kind of built right into Revu that we tend to ignore, we being myself. So,
and me, right?
I mean, you already had your status bar on your screen, so I'm guessing you use it. How about you guys out there? Are you fans of the status bar? Curious to see what the audience says.
And that's usually dependent on the profile as well. Some folks hide it. It's also not just the status bar, the bottom navigation bar gets hidden as well, because people accidentally press the F4 key, I think it is, that's associated to. F4. And then it gets hidden. Yep. There F9. You go.
Oh.
Nope, not F9.
Oh, Chris, you're trying to break my stuff. You're trying to hide the menu bar. Yeah, we don't want to do that.
But F4 bar is for your navigation bar, and sometimes that's gets hidden as well. And people are like, can't go to the next PDF. No, you can't. I guess you could with the thumbnails, right? But
yeah. So status bar toggle is F8. So if you're ever curious, you can run with those. So David likes both of his displayed. I'm gonna turn it on. I got a little bit of real estate that I can give that up to, because
you can get even more real estate if you hid your taskbar when it's not being used. BTW. Then review extends to the bottom.
What taskbar? This one up here?
No, the Windows taskbar.
Oh, I would love to hide everything Windows. I haven't played with much of this stuff yet.
Hold on, go up.
Task view.
This is Windows 11. This is above my pay grade here.
Yeah, I'm out of here, man. I was in such a good mood, and then we started playing with Windows 11.
Windows 10, you can go to taskbar and you can turn it off when not active. So you have to hover over it, and then it will go through. I'm wondering what Windows 11 is. I'm pretty sure if you Google it outside of this, you can find it. But what will happen is for at least Windows 10 is review will go all the way down. So now you get even more real estate. What is that, like half an inch there? I would say.
Sure. But that's things I really don't care about. Windows 11 just brings me down. But anyway, let's talk about happy things like Bluebeam. All right. So we're talking about our status bar. So let's take a little dive back down through the good old interface here. So another common thing I see is that review usually starts with the review basic profile. So when people get the software, they open it up and like, this is it. Like I got buttons over here. I'm so used to buttons on the top. How come there's no buttons on the top? Well, that's always your profile here. So review advanced is my default these days. I do have a couple extras that we've done sessions on, but these 4 are the ones that are included with review. So always take a look at review advanced, see if it's your thing. You can always customize this however you like. So let's see, what do you do that doesn't? Oh, I don't know.
Where are you getting the question at?
From the chat.
You're just saying when you hover over it, it will display it, yeah.
Oh, this thing down here.
When you hide windows. Whoa. So as you start out within review, you have 4 profiles that you get to install out of the box. So you have review advanced, quantity takeoffs, field issues, and I can go through. Let me show customization as well. So as we go through and install review, you have the 4 out of the box pre-installed. Typically it's like this. For those of us CAD folks that come from a design environment that don't have the menu at the top for quick access toolbars, you probably want to go to Review Advanced to start out with. This allows you to have your quick access to commands that you most frequently use. Well, this is Bluebeam deciding what you most frequently use. Of course, you can go through and add and change these around. So the user interface is modular. It can be specific to a workflow. It could be specific to a firm's needs. It could be a company standard so that everyone knows where everything's at. It's really up to you all to decide how you want to organize this user interface. But first and foremost is you have your toolbars, you have your menus, it has drop downs, you have your panels with icons on the left. And for this specific profile on the right, what you're able to do is you're able to go through and move these toolbars around if you'd like. So there's the dotted line where you can hover and hold, left click. And then what this allows you to do is move it around the user interface. Now, these can only stay around the UI. They cannot be moved outside the user interface. Again, they cannot be moved outside the user interface. Then you have your menus at the top that have flyouts, right? Like Jason was showing, you can go to tools, you can go to your toolbars, have some selections here. Then you have on the bottom, on the left-hand side, for me, I have my panels. And if you don't see a specific icon or a panel that you'd like, you can always right-click in an open area, say show, and these are all your available panels that you can go through and pick from. Now, let's go and talk about customizing this toolbar menu because I love doing it and customizing this area. Now, I have stamps on one location, so you can go through and dock stamps directly to a toolbar. You can also dock a tool set, which is pretty cool to do as well. So we'll talk about all of that. But first and foremost, if you right click on a toolbar, you can go through and pick a specific toolbar command. area, or you can customize. This is going to be your bread and butter down here, customizing and creating your own. So over here on the right-hand side, this first box here are your available toolbars from install, right? So Bluebeam has created their own to give you within review. And now you can go through and decide which ones you want to show. You could have right-clicked and just selected one and it would populate them. But from here, now I can go through and select the toolbar in the selection for rotation, for instance. Then below that, it has a line item of what commands are available in this toolbar location. On the left-hand side, if we're all Revit users from good old Autodesk, it kind of reminds me personally of schedules and getting parameters available. Over here, I have my categories of commands, aka parameters, that I can add to my toolbar, aka schedule, right? So if we're trying to relate things to all of us Revit users, Civil 3D, it's probably that corridor prompt where you get to go and embed, like a sidewalk or whatever. Am I correct, Jason, if I remember Civil 3D correctly? I think so.
Did you say sidewalk?
So you have your corridors, and then you can pick and add
assemblies
curb
and sub-assemblies to the corridor. Yeah.
It's like that. See, I remember some Civil 3D.
This is scaring me.
But as we go back, I could do all categories, typically what I do, and then you can go through and look for commands that you want to add to a toolbar. So from here, now you get to go through and hit over, and it will add it to, now I'm going to add this to rotation, which is redo. Typically for undo and redo, I'd probably attach it to a mouse, but a mouse button, not a mouse, but a button on my mouse. And then from here, now it'll be added to this specific one. Now, if you wanted to create your own toolbar with its own name, you could just hit add, you're going to name it, and then you add your whatever you want. There are some separators. So as you see in this one above, see how there's a line separating to your next commands. You just use this as your separator, or you could add an entire space if you wanted to. So it's adding a blank space and then your next command. So it's up to you. I'll just add that. There you go. Here we go. Hit OK. So this is now going to be right here. So you can move these down, by the way, so they don't have to be all the way out. But from here now, I have my user interface with a rotate, counterclockwise, and now a redo if you want it as well. But as I go through and look at my user interface and I customize it, I probably shouldn't do this with an existing one, right? Because then if I go back and I say, this is the out-of-the-box review advanced, it's now overwritten, right? I can close out a review. Review will then remember, I had 2 instances open. So, all my reminders. Okay, let me open review again. And yes, this is busy. When I do trainings, I save everything to my desktop. I'm sorry, folks. But going back into here, right? Now, if I go back to my review advanced, it's because I had the instance not saved for it. But I still have my rotate. We can go back. Let me customize it. So be aware that defaulted custom toolbars do not save. Let me do redo. This is the same thing. You can hit R or type in, and it will give you that item for dropping you to the command that you're looking for. Okay, so from in here, I'd probably want to go to manage profiles, because these are all of our profiles, right? I can go to manage profiles, and from here, I can add my new profile if I wanted to. This is creating a new name for your custom profile that's going to control your user interface and other things that we'll learn along the way. This is going to be a additional two-part blooming into review, right? I think we have 2 slated for this. Okay. 2 more, not just this one and then another one.
2 total.
Is it 2 total?
2 total. Yep.
All right. I have to slam things into this quick. Okay. So, because last time I think we made it all the way into 4.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. So we'll just try to get into 2. So these are going to be quick. And if you have any questions, of course, along the way, please ask. Otherwise, you're just going to hear me ramble along the way and try to give you some new things that I've learned as well from the last time we did this. Okay. So as you go through into here, though, you can name whatever you'd like your profile to be. This is also where you're going to be able to export these out including dependencies includes everything. So this could be a line style, a hatch pattern, which may be changing in the future. Line style, hatch pattern. I was waiting for Jason to look at me when I was making a hint drop there, but he didn't. Include dependencies would be line styles, hatch patterns. It'd be your tool sets, custom columns. All of that stuff would export out with your profile. And then you can import them in this way as well. You can also go through and modify an existing one just by changing the name or deleting it. This is where your defaulted location of storing them goes to. And this is what currently active profile I have. So I don't have an MCR one. I probably do in the folder, but let me just do MCR. Great.
So if you're looking at making a custom profile for your company or your team or a specific type of work, this is where you do it.
Yes, exactly.
And
yeah,
profiles
toolbars at the bottom.
Maybe a little bit more important.
Yeah, it will. Well, I don't want to say too much. Okay, so from here, now what we can go through and do is also add things from up in our menu. So if there's ever something in a toolbar that you wanted it to be and you just didn't want to right click and go to customize, you can just hover over an existing command like overlay pages. There's a pin icon for a reason. The reason is that you can pin it to an existing toolbar. Now you just need to remember which one is which up there, which is always confusing to me, but I know rotation because we just added something to rotation and it's probably right underneath this document bar here. But I can just say, great, I'm going to add overlay pages to the rotation. And now here's overlay pages. And it's actually not grayed out because I don't need to be in review, or sorry, I don't need to have a PDF open to overlay pages. Hatch patterns were talked about a couple of weeks ago, at least to add in. Yes, we can go through.
You made a little hint about review 21. I mean, super ultra mega. And then, yeah, anyway, keep going.
Hatch patterns are still there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah. Okay. So as we go through and look at file access here, we can also add, well, actually, no, this is what I was going to sidetracked, but I can add a tool set. So let's say my punch key for paint, I can go over here to the gear symbol under my tool chest, under my tool sets, and I'll come back and reiterate this when we go through because you're probably like, well, what is this if you're really new to review? But you can go and pin them, same thing to rotation. So now I don't have to hit the fly out for my tool chest here. I can just hit the drop down. And I don't know why I brought it all the way over there, but now I can just select whichever punch key markup I want to go through and use. So again, this is a little bit quicker of a way to go through and add things. So you don't have to hit the full fly out, then select it. I guess if you brought it up to your number key, that's what the hotkeys are for. But at least from here, I can just quickly select the icon that I want to go through and use. So if I go and say, hey, I want to create a punch list item for one of these areas over here, I can just grab this one and there we are.
So I love this trick. I don't use it myself, but I've shown it a few times, and this is great for people with smaller screens. If they're working mobily or something on, like the small surface, minimize your workspace a little bit, and then there you go.
Yeah. So that's going through and modifying your toolbars. The other one is your panels. So you have these panels that are icons such as file access. Now, what they can do in review 20 is they can be removed outside the user interface. So if I left click and hold one of these panels, it's actually going to allow me to drag it outside of the user interface, or you could go to the right, or this is the bottom panel. I was confused. Or you can dock them within one another as well. So left, right, bottom, right. You have that option. Now, if these are dragged outside the user interface, they do stay with the profile this way. So if I were to switch this profile from review MCR to review advanced, right, here's advanced, then back to my MCR, there it is. Now, if there's a second screen this goes to, because I have a second screen on my left-hand side, now, if it went to that second screen and the person opened this profile and didn't have a second screen, then it would go to the center. I was going to make a joke for why you wouldn't have a second screen, but I defaulted to not making a joke. So we'll bring this back, go up to here and dock it back. Now, if you aren't one of those folks that are very handy with left click, hold and drag, that's what I'm doing for all of these. You can always right click, attach to the left, right, bottom, or detach. So you have those options as well. If you're a little less handy with going through and dragging things over.
Well, I think it's more of usually when the panels get dragged out, it's an accidental move, right? Sometimes maybe you're not thinking and you just grab it and things get moved and you're like, oh no, how do I get it back?
Yeah.
And you can't really drag it back. You have to actually use the right click.
Yep. So you can go and right click and say attach or not. So that is profiles. What else should we add about profiles before the user? I guess that's the user interface and profiles. What else? Is there anything else for user interface?
The big things, right? The interface is going to change depending on what version of review you're on. Obviously, if you're still, and there are a lot of folks out there still on 17 and 16 and 15, your interface is totally different, right? It changed in 18. 18 was not a great version, so hopefully you're not on that.
Do we think it changes in 21?
It does not change in 21.
Okay.
Not even a little bit.
Great.
Wait, just a little like this much. Is that too much of a tease?
No,
sorry, Doug.
That's good. So it doesn't change in 21, which is great, but it did change from 17 to 18. Okay. Yep. So be aware of that. If you are transitioning, there's that end of life for older licenses. If you'd like to have a conversation around that, we can. There's also some YouTube videos. We've talked about it in depth about what end of life means.
But there's still a lot of folks who weren't aware of that. So, if everybody listening, if you encounter somebody who's on 19 or older, let them know, because they're really going to have a hard time if they don't upgrade prior to March of 2023, which is going to happen real soon. And, it's going to cause some folks some bad times. So we certainly want to be, sharing that information.
Exactly. They won't have access to Studio come 2023. Yep. So be aware of that. So as we move forward, talking about from going and customizing our user interface, the next part is probably going to be how we navigate through PDFs and how review defaults. Now, I know Doug likes to open up when he opens up review. I think I'm correct. Doug likes to have under preferences, you can open up to a specific PDF. So typically when you open up review, if you've exited out of the start screen when you first downloaded a review, you can actually have it open up to a default PDF. Maybe it's your company standards and how you're using review, or maybe it's a PDF that has attached profiles with tool sets, and then you oversave that PDF each time. This is me just thinking off the rip here. That could have been great, right? That's your company profiles with your tool sets that you always update, and then it's always pointing to that PDF. Hey, what do you think?
Yeah, or it could be like company news or all types of things. Doug opens up to a dashboard. So a dashboard would be a great thing where you could have a button that would go to, here's your standards, all that other stuff. Is right.
Is there a white paper somewhere that teaches you how to make a dashboard in an hour?
In an hour? Wow. I think there is a white paper that shows you how to do digital dashboards in an hour. Oh, DJ CJ. Anyway, let's go.
Okay. So as we go through, that is probably one thing that you could do to default to start and opening up to as well. The other one is going through and navigating different size PDFs. So review works off of larger PDFs and smaller PDFs in a little different manner by default. So if I go through and open up a smaller PDF, which is an 8.5 by 11, so I'm going to go through and somewhere in here, open it. No, this one, spec docs here. So this is it's because I changed it. There we go. Okay. So this is an 8.5 by 11 by default, all of them, unless you save it outside with a different setting like I did. All of them by default, 8.5 by 11 bottom right, is going to be in what we call continuous page mode. So when I'm using the scroll wheel right now, it's scrolling up and down the PDF. But if I switch to my Samtec one, which is a 36 by 24 or 24 by 36, If I scroll in and out, like I thought I would be going up and down the PDF, like on the 8.5 by 11, it's zooming in and out.
This drives people nuts.
Yes.
I'm people.
And
sometimes
Jason's
if you
people.
don't know what's going on, this can be really confusing.
And if I remember, there is a setting for that in here. It was under general. Yeah.
Continuous display.
This is just fitting to page though. This isn't saying page layout, auto detect. Yep.
There you go. So
by
if it's,
page size.
If it's larger than 8.5 by 11, it automatically goes to one mode. And if it's 8.5 by 11 or smaller, it goes to the other mode.
Mm-hmm. So when I'm scrolling in and out, I'm zooming in and out. Again, this one up and down. You can overwrite this quickly by holding control. What you want to pay attention to is my hand here. It's up and down arrow. That is continuous page mode. Holding control switches it to single page mode. Same thing over here. Holding control. Now I'm going up and down the page. These can also be changed under view, single page, continuous page.
Magical. So there we go. So
okay,
both on preferences and on the navigation bar at the bottom and on the menu bar.
Yeah, preferences, document. I don't know why it's staying at tools. I think, what if that's saved to the profile too? That'd be new for me. But yeah, you have all of these options here to go through.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that is navigating. You can also split screens. So Control 2 up to 16 times. I don't know why you would, and I am correct, 16 times.
Did you get too much free time on your hands to try this?
So, well, yeah. And so you have that option of going through. Now, these can all be simultaneously synced. I love syncing my screens as well. Okay, they're all synced. So if I scroll in one place to the next, they're all going to go. This
like
does
a good way to crash your computer.
Yeah. If you have a large set, probably. But as you go through here and you're not on the bin box, mic drop. Okay, so from here, you're able to go through and grab tabs out as well. So this does follow that Google Chrome environment, or Microsoft Edge now copied Chrome. They're tabular for all your PDFs. You can just left click, hold, and drag it out. This can be brought onto a second screen. They do sync simultaneously as well. So be aware of that. If you wanted to sync on a second screen because you wanted more real estate to go through, you do have that option. Now I can right click and reattach it as well. Now, if it's a split PDF of the same PDF that's dragged out like this, you can't reattach because it's the same one. And yes, if you mark up on one, it shows on the other because it's the same PDF that you have open, just on a different screen. Now I can hit escape, and now I'm back to here. Yeah,
so there was a question from David. Is the remember last page setting, is that what makes review open to the document in the middle versus on the first page every time?
Yeah, it opens to whatever page you saved it on.
You saved it, so you have to save it to remember that, right?
I don't think you have to save it, but it's opening to the last page that you were on.
There you go. Pretty fancy.
This document recovery is that window you see if you don't save changes. There is a cached location of your PDF locally as well.
Knock on wood, but I haven't had review crash on me in a while.
Yeah,
like
and
some other products may crash, and then it warns you the next time you open up review. Hey, in your last session, blah 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 blah. Would you like to recover it? So it does cache stuff somewhere. I did just do it myself.
But yeah, there's a cache location. Kyle and I, Kyle, I forget who. Yeah, Kyle found it, and then we had to re-find it, and there is a cache location. So just be aware.
Good point here, David. Something to keep in mind when you send things out to your customers. If you want them to see the first page when they open it, they need to be on the first page when you close it. So very, very good point. That remember last page functionality here, just because it works on your computer, that doesn't assume that when you send that PDF out for somebody else, that that's how they're going to see it, right? So set it to the first page. It'll make their life easier.
Here's navigation. So you have single page mode, zoom or scroll. You could really mess someone's days up by switching these around. Yeah.
Oh man.
Reverse mouse wheel zooming, sensitivity, enable scroll bar. So yeah, you have a bunch of different options that you're going through to enable these as well. Grids and snaps. I almost always snap the content. This is always selected for me. I used to change this, but you can change your snap color.
I changed mine.
Yeah. So if you go through and you snap to something, it will be that color. So just be aware when you're snapping to content, you have that option to change the color of the snap.
So if you go back to the preferences, the only things that I change, and I recommend everybody change, is general, change your name for one. So user, put your name, or what I do is I'll put Jason Artley and then put ATG in parentheses. So if I am collaborating with somebody, they know who I am, because they might not recognize my name, but they say, oh, he's from ATG. Or, you don't have to do your first initial last name, or you can do, whatever you want. And then
long-winded.
I know I was trying to do like a I can't even admit it. It hurts my feelings. I was going to say, James from Bill and Ted, Bill S. Preston Esquire. There we go. I was going to put Bill S. Preston Esquire in there. You could put your initials, PE or whatever they are. And then, so change your name and then go to grid and snap, change to snap to content, snap to markup. And yeah.
So David likes Crosshair. Some folks do like this Crosshair feature. And typically they'll go to Crosshair and then show the ruler.
Ooh, it's very AutoCAD-y from back in the day.
So this is one feature that some folks like. Again, view, ruler, and then preferences. You have the Crosshair.
I don't mind the ruler. I don't use the ruler, but I don't mind the ruler.
Yeah.
Could come in handy. Can you change the color of the crosshair?
Don't know. I don't think so. Interface.
Yes, you can change the color of the crosshair, David. Lightsaber blue in honor of Star Wars Day Eve.
So show crosshair. Where is it going to be, under interface or tools?
Oh, are we going somewhere we've never been? Fill color, boundary color. How's yours red, David? Or is your lightsaber red? Ooh, see, now we've got other questions.
See, because this is the theme from dark to light. That's just changing the UI.
Right. I didn't say I knew how it changed it. It changed. I wonder if that's the snap color. If you change your snap color to red, if that would affect anything.
It is.
There you go. So your snap color determines the color of your crosshairs, which is probably unintentional. But all right, there we go.
Learn something new every day.
Because I usually change my snap color to red, but I don't use full screen crosshairs, so I never made that
connection.
Yeah.
So going back and talking about the user interface and navigating PDFs. So again, you have that ability to go through, zoom in and out. And then the other thing I like to talk about is your navigation bar. This is going to allow you to go to the next page, all the way to the end. Then this one is your previous view you had most recently. So if I went here and then went to the end, right, and I wanted to go back, all I have to do is hit Alt left, and it brings me back to that same spot.
That's a very underutilized function, I think.
I agree.
And it's super handy.
And this could be assigned to a mouse button as
Mhm.
well. So customizing your keyboard shortcuts, you can go through and look at all of your keyboard shortcuts. And then if you have a mouse, I have Logitech mouse, which has a Logitech controller, which I can assign this value to a button on my mouse. And that would be a great thing too.
Mhm. Question. Sometimes I'm not able to utilize the hotkeys. H for highlight. How do you activate them? Yeah, you shouldn't need to activate anything. As soon as you hit the keyboard, it should react because that's how the software is intended to work.
Yeah.
Interesting. A locked PDF. Yeah, that might prevent you from doing certain tools, but you should still be able to use some. Try like
Yeah,
the
you want to make sure that it's high in terms of the highlight command still works, right? Is there something locked? Going through and certified, anything like that may not let you use the command in the PDF and other markups, right?
And then also in that navigation bar, right now it says 3 of 7. Another underutilized thing is you can just type whatever number you want in there. So if you want to go to page 6, just type 6 in there and it will take you to page 6.
Yeah, here.
Boom.
I didn't know that.
I use that a lot for, if I'm doing national CAD standard stuff, because that PDF is like 964 pages long. I know what section I need to get to, and I don't have hyperlinks set up, so I can just jump to page 64 or whatever it is, and it takes me.
You could create bookmarks,
I
Mr. Harley.
Could, but yeah.
Okay, so going back to your keyboard, I would make sure that they're assigned for you to make sure they work. Maybe restore to defaults and just check to make sure that that is correct.
Yeah, he's saying it works if you select the command. So if you hit the toolbar and it allows you to do a highlight, that's great. But if the keyboard won't let you do it, that's a different story.
Yeah, because it should.
Interesting.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I don't know why that wouldn't.
Well, this one I didn't have to. I just press, you don't have to put the number. I need to delete this stuff off of it. Anyways, okay, going back into navigation. Next, let's talk about our thumbnails panel. So our file access panel or panels in general. So you're able to go through and manage your recently accessed files from here. So you can go through and say from a specific date, you can want to see your recently accessed files, or by folder, or maybe by most accessed. And I think by folder, you can click the folder open. Yeah, you can. Or the drop down for the PDFs that are in those folders, and then most access or access history from this specific time that you've had. You can always right click on this and clear it. Just remember, you can't get it back when you've cleared it. So be aware of that. Then you can go by, I'll just do by folder. Now, let's say you wanted to do these things that I have over here. And what are these things Michael's talking about? You can pin PDFs or categorize them. Pinning them. So if I hover over a PDF, I can right click and say pin and pin file. It's going to give it under the pinned header here. And this just means it's pinning it underneath its folder structure. This is great for me because I do a lot of demos and show clients how to use reviews so I can quickly access files. And also, just like the folder works here, if maybe I wanted to grab a file that's not pinned from the completed sets folder, I can just click the folder and it shows me the entire folder itself.
Such a great trick.
Yes. And then again, so these live within the folder. When you're pinning them, the folder populates of where it's stored, and then the file lives there. Now, if you wanted to pin two files with each other, even though they didn't live in the same folder structure, you pin to a category. So that's right clicking, pin to category.
So this is great for, company standards or specifications or, contact lists. There's all types of things that you can do with this to really save you clicks when it comes to navigation.
Yep. So just be aware you're able to pin to categories if you wanted to go through and do that. Any questions?
Negative.
Or what questions do we have?
I see what you did there. All right, so you showed the file access panel. There was a question, and I know I'm diving in a maybe bad time.
Early.
Go down one to their tool sets, tool chest. So our good old tool chest. Hopefully you're all familiar with this. If not, you really should be. This is one of the things that really sets Revu apart. And there's so much you can do in here. And I want to sort of challenge you, Michael, here. We're going to jump ahead and then we'll go back. So right there on your fourth one down, you've got punch key paint. And you have, that one's got comments and labels, but the doors one below it doesn't have those. Why is that?
This is because it's in symbol mode, not detail mode.
So when it's in detail mode, it will show you the comment and the label. And there was a question in the Facebook Bluebeam user group the other day about changing those columns. And it would be really nice if you could put label next to subject, but you cannot do that. So these columns are not customizable like some of the other columns in Revu are, but you can change their width. So just thought I'd have Michael just point that out in case you come across that from Facebook land. All right. So what else is in here? You've got all these tools and you've got symbols. What's going on in this tool chest? What does this do?
So this is going to save my recently used markups. So typically what I'll go through and do is show us some markups and then we'll go into there. So let's go and talk about what type of markups we can make in Revu and then save them in our tool set to reuse later on, because that's one of the greatest features within Revu, right? Is reusing our markup capabilities. So we don't have to recreate them each and every time. Now, typically with Revu, where I'm seeing folks tend to lean towards now, because right as we're starting to adopt this portable document format even quicker now with the whole pandemic that just happened, everyone's switching to PDFs, not really printing things out anymore. Of course, you can print things out if you're still one of those folks, but I highly suggest saving some trees and creating a more efficient workflow. But what people are doing is, so instead of going and, using this great thing that's a Cloud Plus, which is great, right? Which would be a typical workflow. Let me go and grab this PDF that has a door out in the middle of nowhere. Would be to go through and revision cloud something, and then I have my call out, right? But the thing is with the call outs, it's now busying up my PDF, right? Because it has a leader with some data. Where I'm seeing folks go to now is just revision cloud it, double click, and applying the comment here, right? Because it's going to live as we start to learn in our markups lists. So the Cloud Plus is this one, has the same comment, but so does my cloud, even though it's here, not on my page. It's not making a more busy environment and maybe overwriting an existing area. But to each their own. Maybe a typical workflow was a text, door, and then an arrow. We don't need to add the arrow. You can always select the text here, right click, add a leader. You can add as many leaders as you want from any side.
Only if you're in Revu 20.
Oh,
right.
Sorry, folks.
If you're not on 20, then you don't get that little right click feature, but I think you can add.
I think you can add it from the same spot right here. There was the update where you can add it from any side.
Mm-hmm. Magical.
Okay. The other option is going through and placing an arc. And there's a couple different ways to place the arc. Just selecting it, you have your start and end point. The other one is holding Control, left clicking, and then you can pick your point. It's Alt. So holding Alt, left clicking on the arc command gives you points to select your placement of your arc.
Oh, that's a great question, Christopher. Here we go. I'm going to ask this to you. Since you were just talking about Cloud Plus, when you drew that, it showed up red. Can you change the standard font, color, and line width for the Cloud Plus tool for markups?
So typically, and this is to each their own, right? But typically, I recommend not changing defaults. I recommend using your tool chest as your newly saved defaults of what you want your markups to be. Okay. So typically what you'll go through and do is if you're going to change this revision cloud to customize the way you want it to look for future indications. So if you want this to look a specific way, each time you place your revision cloud plus with a specific color, I typically don't recommend folks going into here and doing what I'm going to show you. And that is going through and saying, selecting, right-clicking, and setting as default. Because now, anytime you make a revision cloud plus, it's always this versus your red traditional method. I recommend going up to here. If you're going to set defaults, use My Tools, because My Tools has hotkeys. So just whatever you want these defaults to be, just put them in My Tools. Everything else will just go into a custom tool set. But My Tools, if I press F14 now, sorry, not F14. If I press 14 on my keyboard, I have these new settings. So that's the typical workflow I recommend. Yeah, Jason looks concerned. I don't think he's concerned of me. He's concerned of something he's looking at himself. So. But yeah, you could go through to here and now you can type in whatever you want and see this is the workflow you'd want to set as your defaults versus going through and right clicking, which you can do by all means. Again, to each their own, and how you want to set up your user interface, you can set as default. But I recommend this versus set as default because this is what you're going to use most frequently and probably moving forward as you start to learn the power of review and the custom tool sets, right?
You use the hot water brick wall all the time yourself? I do too. It's one of my favorites.
So the other one was somebody asked me the other day, because some softwares don't do this. They'll like go and highlight and then they have to re-hit the command. And I still have it selected. That's great. But typically even Review does this too. It's reuse tools. So you have the option of going through and being able to still stay in the command even after you've done something.
All right. Two things here. We started today talking about the status bar because the status bar contains things that we don't always think about. And that reuse tool button lit up when you went to your preferences. So it actually lives down there on the status bar.
So if I do that?
Yeah.
And then do this.
Go down to your status bar. That one the box second from the right is the reuse tool toggle.
Where's that?
My Zoom is blocking the status bar. The bingo marker.
This one.
Yeah. Reuse. So you don't have to.
I didn't even know it was there.
Yeah, see? The status bar is like a sort of unsung hero. We don't think about it, but it is pretty helpful.
Is there a hotkey for that?
Ooh. I think you can also get to it through. There's another spot. Like most things in Review, there's 3 or 4 ways to get to the same thing. Yeah, reuse. It's on the bottom of the tools, but there is not a hotkey for that. Interesting.
I wonder if you put it to like Alt or something. If you hold it, you can reuse it right away. I don't know. Just thinking. Okay.
Yeah.
But again, some little quick tips with that. The other quick tips are for dimensions, right? As you go through and place these, if you're trying to change these to a different location because they're in the way, left click and hold shift and you can drag it out. By the way, you can also add leaders from these by holding the shift and pressing the node here. And you can add a leader like that. Moving these around, holding shift, not over this node, but holding it over the text allows you to move the text out to a new location for your dimensions. So that is a tip as well. What other tips do we have from the community or Jason for some of these?
For reusing them or customizing them?
Just tips on how to manipulate some of these that are hidden. Because there's ones for all these, right? You can have the nodes. I can scale things up. We know
some
those.
of this is all just playing with it. Hold down Shift, hold down Alt, hold down Control. The three of those buttons are modifiers for different commands, and sometimes they're not always consistent.
Yeah,
so
you
if you're
can
not
convert
getting
to
the behavior that you want, click the other one.
Yeah, and you can hold Control to convert to an arc. So if you wanted something like this, you know.
Pretty fancy. I mean, it's not CAD software.
How do I change to an arc? I just I hovered over a regular line. And at the node,
line.
holding, polyline, I'm sorry, a connected line, held Control at the end of in the middle of the node, and see how it has the arc symbol? I'm holding Control, left click, convert to arc. You could also right click too and convert to arc.
Very cool.
Okay, so those are some hidden embedded ones. But yeah, so I kind of alluded to this, and typically I go through this and then go to here, but we allude a little bit to this. But you have your tool chest that's itemizing for your recent tools, everything that's been taking place on your PDF. Now, if I close my PDFs, this still stays here. But if I close review, under recent tools in my tool chest, these all go away. So be aware of that, because these are all my recently used tools in the session of review. Now, if I want to save these to reuse them later on, can I do that? So yes, you can go through and save these. I thought there was a way to renumber these. Maybe it's only in these ones, the number of order of how many show up. But because I want them all to show up here. So going through to here, though, you have the option of seeing your recently used markups. And from in here, you can add them and save them, right? Because these go away. But there's two different modes for these. Currently, all of these, except for this one, are in what we call properties mode. How do I know that? See the little icons above them? Those are the command icons, which are actually going to reuse the same properties you used before. Now, if I double click on one, see how this one looks very similar to this one? That's drawing mode. So I'm going to have the same exact copy of one that I made before. You can always switch any of your markups to be the same thing that it was prior, just by double clicking on it or right clicking, properties mode, drawing mode.
I still get those confused. Like drawing mode seems like drawing mode and properties mode seems like, yeah, anyway.
No, I know there's a way. Whenever I get large numbers like this, sometimes it gives me the number of showing of them before. And I just need to remember how it does that and when it does that to remember next time. Because you can change the amount of number of instances shown for these. But okay. Going back into here for recent tools, again, you have the availability of seeing all of these. There's got to be a way, because now it's annoying to me. But okay. You can drag them up to a new tool set if you wanted to by left click, hold, and drag. I did that a little bit earlier. Or you can select the markup on the PDF. Maybe you like David's when he sends you a PDF and he took the time to create it and you're like, oh, I like that one. You can select it, right click, and add it down at the bottom to a tool set that you want. So again, this is your tool chest, which is like a toolbox that has tool sets in it, like an Allen key set. And then you have your Allen keys, which are your markups, okay? So that's how the tool chest works for your analogy for all folks listening in. You have your toolbox, then you have your tool set, and then you have your tools, which are your markups, okay?
Ooh.
You can.
Good question here. Can you make the tool chest images bigger? There you go. That good old slider bar. Ta-da.
Maybe it's here. No. I swear there was a number at one point.
A number. I don't remember.
It was
seeing a
saying like,
number.
how many do you want 32 to show? I remember at one point. Maybe they changed it with an update, but you could like have the amount of numbers that show up of the markup, so it doesn't, do a return like this, and then it has the fly out. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
But yes, for those folks, I always have them with the maxed out triangle because I'm blind, or smaller. It's up to you.
Yeah. So we've got just a few minutes left here. And of course, always when it comes down to these refreshers, went down some rabbit holes today, but there is a question here from Eric that I think would be a good one to sort of wrap up on. Going back to tools, and when you're drawing lines and arcs, there's a question about how do you make a semicircle? Pipe down, the arc is only a quarter circle. So you're talking like an ellipse if you're showing like a pipe break. So my brain went
I would
there.
do, yeah, I mean, you could go here and just click the arc and your point, right? Because then you can always continue the line. And it could be anything by holding Alt for what your angle is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then continue it, because it's going to continue the full, right? Even if I place it here, I'm going to be able to continue this all the way around to where you need it to be.
Right. So just making like a C, like a half circle. Or, yeah, gripping away to your heart's content.
Yep. So there's that. You can go through and do it just like that. I'm holding Alt to pick my points.
That's too cool. Again, even the simple things, right? We all draw lines and arcs, and well, hopefully we all draw lines and arcs and do things in Revu, but even some of those modifiers like Shift and Alt and Control might not be logical or intuitive to use. So just give them a try with any of the other commands, and you might be surprised what you find. And if you find something cool, certainly let us know. Ooh, got a good question here from Marvin. That's a text question. So as always, if you have questions about anything in Revu or the whole Bluebeam world that goes well beyond Revu, let us know. At the end of this message or this broadcast, there will be a survey. You can certainly type your questions in there and we'll answer them next time, or we'll email you. But Marvin's got a question here about 3D PDFs. And we talked about 3D PDFs a few weeks ago. But this is more of a support thing. So
no, it's in regards to, he has standard. So yes, you may see add-ins and they're grayed out because you do not have CAD or Extreme. So you cannot create 3D PDFs unless you have Revu CAD or Extreme. That allows you to plug in into your design environment. With standard, you get an automatic plug-in to your Microsoft 365.
Right. So depending on which version, standard, CAD, or Extreme, you saw Michael was in Extreme today. Nothing he did today was an Extreme function.
No.
Everything was available in standard, but yes, as Matt says, the possibilities are endless. So yeah, if you're looking for 3D PDF plugins in Revit and you don't see it, chances are you only have standard.
Yep. And with that note, as always, thank you for attending our Blooming into Spring with us as we go through and talk about the basics of Revu. I would like to say sprouting a new root, but that's just a plant person in me. As we go through, again, at the end, please leave any comments if you have any, and some additional items if you do not think we're doing great as instructors. We can only be better with critical feedback on how we're doing. But thank you all for attending today, and we will see you all next Tuesday.
Yeah, we'll see you next Tuesday. Have a great week, everybody. Take care out there. Happy Star Wars Day tomorrow, and we'll see you next Tuesday.
See you next Tuesday.